GTA 6's trailer 2 has been out for a few weeks now, and I'm sure if you're like me, you've probably watched it, hundreds of times at this point. But did you know, or I guess did you realize that watching trailer 2 might have just spoiled a huge story moment for you? What I want to do in this video is take a look at trailer 2 and a bit of trailer 1 and see if we can piece together the story that Rockstar is cooking up for GTA 6. So let's go ahead and hop right in. There is a huge theory about this. Yes, more GTA 6 theories. You thought they were all gone now that we got trailer 2? No, they're just beginning. I have no idea where this originated from, so whoever noticed it first, shout out to them. But there's a very common theme with trailer 2s from Rockstar's previous games. The top, there's a massive possibility that Rockstar have shown a key major plot point in GTA 6 already. In a few of their trailers, they've shown scenes that look inconspicuous on their own, but are actually major moments or twists. And the 4 examples we have are from GTA 4, Bully, GTA 5, and RDR2. In GTA 4, Nico finally finds Darko, the man he was looking for throughout the entire game, and the trailer makes it look like it's just a generic guy he's threatening. Bully, which unfortunately I've never played, so maybe if someone has, you can enlighten us more on this, but I guess there was a boss fight with someone named Russell, and Gary betrays Jimmy by setting him up, and in the trailer, I guess it made it look like Russell was the main antagonist. 2 more recent examples, though, of course, are GTA 5 and RDR2. GTA 5 in trailer 2, there was a couple of scenes with Trevor stomping on Johnny from GTA 4, the protagonist from The Lost and the Damned. And the trailer doesn't show his face, obviously. It just makes it look like it's, it could be anyone that Trevor is beating up. And then in RDR2's trailer 2, there is the scene where Arthur actually gets tuberculosis, which, the game's been out for 8 years now. It ends up killing him in the end. And in trailer 2, it sort of just makes it look like a generic shakedown scene because he's, where is the money? That's what he's saying. But like the theory suggests, all of these are in their trailer 2s, and they're all pretty big twists or pretty big moments in the game. Now, for GTA 5 specifically, we're going to focus on that one, and RDR2, I get it, right? This is when Trevor beats up Johnny and kills him. That's like the beginning of the game. I think isn't that your first introduction to Trevor? It's also not a huge part of the actual story, but it is for sure a major moment or a twist, like the theory suggests, because killing a major character from a previous game, that is a big deal. And they did show that in trailer 2. And also another thing I noticed when I did just rewatch GTA 5's trailer 2, towards the end of it, they have the line from Trevor telling Michael, "Your therapist has a lot to answer for."
Jesus, your therapist has a lot to answer for.
And that line, although it's in a different location, it's not this scene, but that line, word for word, is what Trevor tells Michael at the end of the C ending when everyone lives in GTA 5.
Jesus, your therapist has a lot to answer for.
So not only did trailer 2 for GTA 5 show a big, major twist, but it actually did have a little phrase from the actual finale of the game. And then with RDR2, you just had the little scene, where's my money? Well, if we watch the actual cutscene from the game, you can see clearly that the guy coughs blood on Arthur, and that is where he gets tuberculosis, which is unfortunately the downfall of him in that game. And that is a pretty huge moment, I would argue, for RDR2. So then that brings us to GTA 6's trailer 2. And in this video, I wanted to just go through this and see if we can piece together a story, because I do think there's a pretty logical series of events here looking through this trailer. And I did also want to see if we can locate and point out that big moment or that big twist in trailer 2, because presumably Rockstar has done that again for GTA 6. And I think this is it's kind of interesting because we're obviously a year out. We only have 2 trailers to go off of. And I think this is the perfect time to just speculate on this sort of stuff. And in a year's time, after we beat the game, then we can revisit this and see how accurate our predictions were, our theories were. So let's just go back to the beginning here. And I want to start with just the overall story first, just to maybe set some context. This is my opinion. This is my speculation. But I think this opening scene here with Jason just working on the roofs and having this guy, I forget his name already, but having him telling Jason to go around and collect money from the properties he owns, I think this is actually just the very start of the game. There is no Lucia, of course, because she's in jail, but this is how the game is going to start. You're going to start as Jason just doing odd jobs, you know, here and there for that guy. And if we actually look at the characters' descriptions on their website, because we're going to be bouncing back and forth between this and trailer 2. So his name's actually Brian. All right, hopefully I remember that. Or his description, he's a classic drug runner from the golden age of smuggling in the Keys. So it almost sounds like maybe he's a bit retired in that aspect, but he's obviously super rich, has a bunch of properties and stuff. And yeah, it even says he's been around long enough to let others do his dirty work. So he's, you know, making Jason do his dirty work. And I mean, in the screenshots, we obviously have Jason rolling around with him. We also have, we scroll down a bit, this scene, Jason interacting with him. In the final description, Brian lets Jason live rent-free at one of his properties, as long as he helps with local shakedowns and stops by for a sangria once in a while. So back to the trailer. I think again, that's the logical start of the game. You're doing small time stuff for Brian here, and you're waiting for Lucia to get out of jail. How long that'll be, I have no idea. You can speculate on that if you want to. And then I think, yeah, this is just more of the stuff, right? He's doing the shakedowns, and then he's getting the money for Brian, because that's the same guy there on the floor, you know, he just beat up. And actually, I'm just noticing there's another guy back here. I don't know if that guy just passed out high, you know, because there's a pipe here, but maybe Jason also knocked him out, or knocked them out. Then the next sort of obvious cutscene in trailer 2 is when Jason goes to the jail and gets Lucia out. And one thing I wanted to point out here, because it is interesting to look to see when she has her ankle monitor on throughout this trailer. So she gets out of jail and she has the ankle monitor on. So again, this would be, you know, early part of the game. And I think Rockstar are going to do what they did with like the OG Vice or the OG GTA games, where you're going to be locked to certain parts of the island because of this ankle monitor. Unless maybe you can go anywhere with Jason, but if Lucia is with you, you can only go to certain parts, and then the cops will get on you if you go too far. But yeah, this scene, obviously she's getting out. She does have her ankle monitor on. So maybe this will be like the end of the prologue, and this will be the start of Act 1. And even in this scene, she still has her ankle monitor on. So again, this is all at the beginning of the game. Now we cut to the red room, the red heist, we're gonna call it. I think we're gonna come back to this because I do think this is a pretty major moment that could be getting teased here in this trailer. And then the last note about the ankle monitor, we have this scene where they're just on the docks, you know, enjoying some drinks, talking about life, having a good time, it looks like. But yeah, she has the ankle monitor on. So this is, again, the beginning of the game. This is when everything is nice and happy, it seems. Now, there's also some shots of this boat works and marina. This actually does come up quite a few times. I think Cal is also wearing a Brian's Boatworks and Marina shirt. I think what's happening here is these are some of the missions you might actually be doing without Lucia. So it's kind of a time skip in this trailer. It's not like super chronological. I think while we're waiting for Lucia to come out, you'll do the little odd jobs here and there for Brian, but then you also might have a bigger job like this, where you're doing something at night, presumably involving some illegal stuff in the rain, because Lucia is not in this scene. But like I said, Cal, I think, yeah, you can see that's Cal, and is that Jason? I think that's Jason on the other side of it. So again, all of this that we've seen so far, or that I've pointed out so far, has been at the beginning of the game. And then they obviously show the little community service thing. These people also have their ankle bracelets on. So I have a feeling Rockstar are going to have some little mini game where us as Lucia is doing some community service. Hopefully it's not too bad. But yeah, I think that's kind of what this is. This is teasing a bit. Also, the shirt, or not the shirt, the hat says Brian. So that Boatworks place comes up quite a few times, which is why I think that's sort of the beginning of the game. And, you know, that's what you're going to do. And I actually lied. I'm going to just sort of scroll through this. We're going to come back to some of these fancier scenes here, because there is one final scene where Lucia has the ankle monitor on. And that is at the very end here when she, just hops on Jason. She is still wearing the ankle monitor. So this is yet another scene, even though it's at the end of the trailer, it is another scene at the beginning of the game. She has her community service vest on. So I really do think we're getting a little mini game with that. And then, this scene happens in the game. So a summary, the first part of the game, maybe act 1 if you want to call it that, is literally going to be Lucia with the ankle monitor and her and Jason just doing, maybe not her, but Jason at least doing just some odd jobs for them to survive. Because presumably they're broke, right? She's coming out of jail. She doesn't have anything. Jason's living rent free in that guy's house. So presumably he's not, well off either. And I have a feeling that this scene here at the bar, this would be at the end of Act 1, maybe when Lucia gets her ankle monitor removed, because they say, shots for everyone. I think Cal says shots for everyone. It looks like they're having a good time. That's presumably because she is now free and the rest of the game can begin. And I think that makes sense, right? This is a little area probably down in the Keys by where they live. So I think that's a pretty logical assumption there. But then this is where things start to get a bit messy, because that's when they presumably meet some other characters, one of them being Raul. Now this guy, a couple of things I wanted to point out. So he's a seasoned bank robber, always on the hunt for talent, ready to take the risk for the biggest rewards. And obviously you can see Lucia in the background in one of the maybe heists that's happening there. The quote, which I do want to come back to because this I think is pretty interesting. Life is full of surprises, my friend. I think we'd all be wise to remember that. And then the final description of him, they say he is reckless. His recklessness raises the stakes with every score. Sooner or later, his crew will have to double down or pull their chips from the table. I think that's a pretty big key right there. So my prediction, and let's just call it Act 2, right? Lucia gets the ankle monitor off. They meet up with Raul and some of these other people. That's when we get into some of the more fancier stuff, because they're doing a bunch of heists. They're doing a bunch of bigger jobs that give them more money. And that's why they get these, nicer clothes, and stuff like that. Now, I do think this scene maybe could be before we do some of the bigger stuff, because it just looks like they're in like a house or something, or they're robbing an apartment. Like, it doesn't look like a major scene there. She doesn't have her ankle monitor, I don't believe. If we go back up here, you can see it doesn't look like, she doesn't have her ankle monitor in that scene. So this would be, maybe Act 2. Doesn't look like it's like a finale or anything. So I don't think that would be the big moment that trailer 2 could be predicting. But I think maybe that's before they do some of the bigger heists. Now this scene with the cop, we're going to also come back to that, because I do think that's maybe another huge moment that we're seeing here. But this truck scene, that's, Fast and Furious-esque with the vault behind it. I think this is some of the stuff you're going to be doing. This doesn't look like a major heist. Well, I guess maybe it could be. But I would imagine you're just going to do stuff like this, and that's how you get the money in Act 2. And then where things go bad is, in my opinion, this heist. So just take a look at Lucia here. She's wearing the little skull mask with this like black tank top. If we go back to the website, in the little scene with Raul here, she's wearing that exact same top. So presumably this scene that's happening is either before or after that red, heist part in the trailer. Also, the first description just actually sets this up as well. On their website, Jason and Lucia have always known the deck is stacked against them, but when an easy score goes wrong, they find themselves on the darkest side of the sunniest place in America, in the middle of a criminal conspiracy stretching across the state of Leonida. They're forced to rely on each other to survive, basically. So my prediction, and again, this is just prediction, let us know what you think in the comments. This heist goes wrong. Given what we know of Raul here and how it says he's reckless, my hot take is that Raul will actually be one of the rats, or if there's just one rat, that actually ends up turning on Jason and Lucia. And this quote here, this is a quote that he tells them right before he rats them out. It just makes sense. I don't know if it's too logical or if it's too obvious, but imagine, he rats them out, And he says, life is full of surprises, my friend. I think we'd all be wise to remember that. So this would be, you know, middle of Act 2 or something like that. And then Jason and Lucia, they obviously don't get caught, but you have to go on the run. You have to go on the, you know, the darker sides, as they said, of Leonida. But I think so far, in my mind at least, this is the most logical thing here, right? You have this heist that they have enjoyed a couple of maybe smaller scale heists that have worked, and that's how they got some money. But then they do this bigger one and it goes horribly wrong, or Raul rats them out, and then they have to give up their life of, you know, high luxury, and they have to go into hiding and all that. And a couple of reasons why I actually think Raul is going to be the rat. In the artwork, you can see here, I'll zoom in, and look, this is artwork. So this is like someone specifically put this here. We have a hunter hunting a male deer and a female deer. So it's presumably, you know, one person that is going after them. And the symbolism is that Jason and Lucia are the deer and that someone's, you know, hunting them or, you know, after them. I think that maybe could be Raul for some reason. Maybe he has a connection with the cop people. If I go back to the trailer, maybe he has a connection to this guy, because I think this is probably the main antagonist of the game. And also, I know a lot of people are speculating that Jason is going to betray Lucia, or like Lucia maybe even betrays Jason. I don't know. I don't really buy that. I think this whole scene where it's like trust from trailer 1, I think Rockstar are really trying to make us believe that one of these two characters is going to betray each other. But I don't think that's what's going to end up happening, because I think that's too obvious of a thing. They even have the line in trailer 2 where Jason is meeting this guy and he says, yo, is this fool a Fed? I think they're really trying to tease that Jason is like part of the cops and he's going to be the one that betrays them. But I don't really think that that's going to happen. I don't think they're teasing that just because it's too obvious. So I think it's going to be one of these people that they showed us in the characters. And my bet is just Raul. I mean, it could be anyone else, but my bet is it's this guy. Almost because he has a Dutch Vanderlyn-esque look, where Jason obviously looks like Arthur. So maybe they're doing a bit of that as well from RDR2. Now back to the trailer. As we sort of gone through this, we don't really see a whole bunch, I don't think, of like the finale of Act 3, if you want to call it that. Because again, I think this is all in the middle of the game. And I guess that makes sense, right? Rockstar aren't going to want to show a whole bunch of the ending, except I think this right here. Actually, we'll go to YouTube here so you can see the subtitles. I'm going to mute this. But Jason tells Lucia, if we're going to do this, let's do it right. I'll just keep playing it. We're doing it right, as you can see. My bold prediction, now this isn't like a huge moment or anything like the theory originally suggested, but I think this is going to be at the end of the game. That's going to be what they say to each other, or what he says to her at the final mission. And my prediction for that is simply because in GTA 5's trailer, as I showed, Trevor had the line, your therapist has a lot to answer for. And as we saw, that was literally like one of the final things that was said in the game. So Rockstar have shown in trailer 2 stuff from the finale. I think that's what's happening here. I think that's what Jason is telling her. This is, you know, one of the final missions. If we're going to do this, we're going to do this right. And then, you know, hopefully maybe you can drive off into the sunset. Everything is fine at the end of the game. The two other scenes, like I mentioned, if I can find the airplane scene. So here we have the airplane scene. I think this also, it looks like a finale moment. So Lucia is on the bottom here. She's wearing a high vis vest. And I think this is towards the end of the game because, you know, if they've been on the run, this sort of outfit would help her blend into things. Like that's just a cheat code in real life. You just wear a high vis vest and, you know, they have like a ladder or something and no one's gonna ask you questions. So I think maybe Rockstar doing that with Lucia. Now, what the context of the scene, I have no idea, but I think this is maybe towards the end of the game, one of the big finale missions, perhaps. It just looks like that. Like you're fighting in an airplane with the landing gear down. Like if you fall out, you're gonna die. It's a big moment. Right. So I think that's a huge one that we could end up coming back to and be like, oh, wow. So that's what they teased in trailer 2. But even the cop scene right here, this cop scene where he says, us cops, we gotta protect each other. Like, who is he speaking to in this scene? Like, I don't think it's Jason. I think they want you to think it's Jason, given everything they've said about him. I really don't think that's going to be the case. But yeah, is it maybe Raul? Is it some other character? I think these two scenes though, this one with the cop or the airplane fight, I think those are going to be the two big moments we're going to come back to that are probably in Act 3, probably close to the finale of the game, that are big moments that are just going to, like, you know, blow our minds whenever they happen in the game. Because everything else, as I've shown, looks to be early game, like Act 1, or mid game, Act 2. So going back to the original theory here that the last few games Rockstar has hidden a major moment or twist in trailer 2, my prediction is it's either going to be the airplane fight, wherever it's at right here. If I go back a bit, this airplane fight, or it's the cop scene. Because again, I think the most obvious thing when he says us cops, we got to protect each other, people are going to assume that's Jason. And like, that would be a crazy twist, but I think everyone almost already thinks Jason is going to be a Fed or a cop or something. So I think they're going to subvert our expectations on him, and he's not going to actually be anything like that. But yeah, I don't know. That's my prediction. That's my speculation for the big story moments maybe in this game. Let us know in the comments what you guys think. But I do think we actually got a pretty nice little picture here of how the first, you know, bit of the game, the first half of the game is going to go. You're going to start out doing small stuff, maybe without Lucia, just Jason, because she's in jail. She eventually gets out, but you have the ankle monitor on, so you're going to be a bit limited. Obviously, time goes by, she gets it off. Then you start doing bigger and bigger jobs. You get more money. You get the bigger guns, the bigger cars, maybe bigger houses and stuff. Something goes wrong in one of those heists, whether Raul turns on you or something else happens, and then you're on the run. And we haven't really seen much of what happens, you know, after you're on the run. But then the big question, I guess, also is, will this game end like the Bonnie and Clyde story it is based off of? Because in real life, Bonnie and Clyde both die. Are both Jason and Lucia, are they going to have a bad ending like that? Or are they going to have a good ending? Maybe. Or is it going to be somewhere in between? That'll be what is very, very interesting to see. But leave your predictions down below. And like I said, in a year's time, maybe we'll revisit this video to see if any of us were right. But that is going to do it for the video. Thank you guys for watching. Please drop a video a like if you did enjoy. Subscribe for more GTA 6 content. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one.